At 11 to 2 now is Barely Famous. 6 to 1 Let It Shine. 9 to 1 Blazing Court. 18 to 1 Moirai. 22 to 1 One Way Express. 28's Royal Max. 33's Betty's Bell. And she didn't line up last time. She refused to take part. Hopefully that doesn't happen again today. And Ulysses is at 50 to 1. So the Paul Ferguson's Jumpers to Follow Conditional Jockeys Training Series Handicap Hurdle is due off at 5:45, and it's now 5:44, so it shouldn't be too much longer for our final race today. So at the start for this, Have You Got My Money? Paul Robson had the first winner, Magic Mike. He certainly got a chance with this. Made the running last time and just got headed after 2 out. Looked like he was going to win at Hexham, and he got headed on the flat there, but finished a good second. Fantomas, only 1 win from 19. Which suggests there isn't really a clear and outright favourite in this. Katwaba did win a race at Warwick at the beginning of May, but was beaten when he fell at Huntingdon the time after that. So it's up for grabs, this. Barely Famous actually won this race last year. And that one is around about 11 to 2. Let It Shine is going up in trip. Royal Max is going up significantly in trip. And Blazing Court's also having a first try at 3 miles. So on post time. So the starter is climbing the steps. And they're off. And this is the Paul Ferguson's Jumpers to Follow Conditional Jockeys Training Series Handicap Hurdle. 11 of them. And One Way Express is up there with Katwaba. Big jump by One Way Express, too big almost, and just landed level with Katwaba, with Royal Max, the red sleeves in behind, the 2 shades of blue. That is last year's winner, Barely Famous, and she is just running on the inside of Have You Got My Money. On the outer, the white and black, and pulling quite hard in midfield is Blazing Court, the red and white sleeves. Fantomas is out a little wider in front of Ulysses, and Betty's Bell, she jumped off okay today. The best turned out winner held up towards the back of the field with Moirai, and in a detached last is Let It Shine. Let It Shine is several lengths behind the main group under Conor McCann, as it is One Way Express and Luke Scott leading, Katwaba and Kian Chester, and on the outside is Have You Got My Money under Dylan Johnston. Trainer Paul Robson looking for a first and last race double at Southwell today, as they now come to the second. And Moirai is nearly unseating and done very well there. Dylan Whelan nearly came off the mare at the second, but kept the partnership intact, but at quite a significant cost perhaps, has dropped back to be last in company with Let It Shine, as One Way Express and Katwaba are the first 2. Have You Got My Money on the outside? And then in 4th position is Blazing Court and Harry Atkins, ahead of Royal Max. Lewis Dobb going a long way up in trip today, Royal Max, ahead of Fantomas, racing in 6th with Barely Famous. A little gap then of 3 to Ulysses on the inside of Betty's Bell, another 6 lengths to Let It Shine, and 2 more to Moirai. So, running towards the back straight, still on their first circuit in the Paul Ferguson's Jumpers to Follow Conditional Jockeys Training Series Handicap Hurdle. One Way Express on the inside of Katwaba. On the outer is Have You Got My Money? And they're followed by Royal Max in company with Blazing Court as they come to the first of 3 hurdles in the back straight. Fantomas just lobbing away 2 lengths off those. Only a couple of lengths separating the first 5 at the moment. Barely Famous is running in a close 7th. Then the gap of 3 to Betty's Bell and Ulysses, and another gap to Let It Shine and Catawba as they take the middle hurdle in the back straight. So now racing towards number 6 of the 13. They'll be jumping here. Catawba rose first at that one. The yellow colours pushed along is One Way Express, just briefly on the runaway from that last obstacle. Blazing Court is still in behind with Have You Got My Money on the outer. Fantomas keeping an eye on things in about 6th under James Turner on the outside of Royal Max. And then Barely Famous and Garode Harney ahead of Betty's Bell. Tracy Leeson's runner with Ellis Collier aboard. Then 2 lengths to Ulysses, who's now just being pushed along and threatening to lose ground. At the moment, he's some way clear of Let It Shine and Moirai. So turning into the home straight, still over a circuit to go. The white-faced Catawba, Chestnut leading 2. One Way Express in 2nd. Have You Got My Money going comfortably on the outside of Blazing Court. And then Royal Max, first run for different yard today. Then Fantomas as they jump the first of 2 in the straight. Barely Famous follows. Betty's Bell on the outside is now also being ridden along with Ulysses rather more vigorously. And then a gap to Moirai, who is now clear of Let It Shine. As they come to the next, this is number 8 of the 13. The last in a further circuit. They're well bunched up front. One Way Express, Blazing Court coming up for a share of it and took that one very swiftly. Blazing Court. On the inside of Catawba, Have You Got My Money? Barely Famous, dropping back to 5th now, One Way Express, as Fantomas is still in close touch. Betty's Bell responding a little bit, but it's going to be 3 or 4 horses wide going into this bend. And then Royal Max, Ulysses, a gap of 6 to Moirai, and a gap of 12 then to Let It Shine. Heading out on their final circuit here, Catawba in company with Have You Got My Money? Blazing Court the inside. Barely Famous on the premises. Betty's Bell has picked up on the outside of Fantomas, then Ulysses. One Way Express has weakened, and Royal Max is also going nowhere fast. Moirai looking like picking those 2 off any moment now, as they now have 5 left to jump. The first of them in the back straight. And Have You Got My Money? Just led Catawba and Blazing Court. They're followed by Barely Famous in 4th place. Fantomas is in 5th, about 4 lengths off the lead, as Have You Got My Money? It was somewhat ungainly over that, but didn't stop him running. And they now come to the 3rd last. Royal Max pulling up, so too One Way Express. And it is Have You Got My Money to Catawba, Barely Famous. Blazing Court now off the bridle. Fantomas being squeezed along, and they have now dropped Betty's Bell and Ulysses as they take the turn back towards home now. Have You Got My Money on the outside of Catawba? They've always been up there. And they're followed by Barely Famous, Blazing Court backpedaling. Fantomas has got every chance in 4th. Still got running left, Fantomas under James Turner. Just following the first 3, but it's Have You Got My Money striking first to Catawba and Barely Famous. Fantomas in a very close 4th. Blazing Court struggling to get home in 5th. Have You Got My Money, the leader. Fantomas poised in behind. Barely Famous, she's keeping on the outer, and Catawba looks to be up against it in 4th now as they come to the 2nd last. Fantomas try to challenge Have You Got My Money. In 3rd place is Barely Famous, running down towards the last, but now Fantomas has got to go past Have You Got My Money, and he's finding that tough as they head down towards the last furlong. 1 left to jump. Have You Got My Money? And Dylan Johnston to Fantomas. Barely Famous in 3rd. The 13th and final flight. Have You Got My Money with a 2.5 length lead. A good jump. Fantomas made a pretty ugly shape over it in 2nd when struggling. And Have You Got My Money will complete a double for Paul Robson and wins under Dylan Johnston. Have You Got My Money to, in 2nd position, Fantomas, kept on to hold that from Barely Famous and clear from Catawba in 4th.